What are the three branches of the United States government?
When the U.S. Constitution was written in 1787, the people writing it, referred to as the framers of the Constitution, were very concerned with maintaining a balance between the power of the government and the freedoms of the citizens. The framers divided the federal government into three branches: the executive, legislative, and judicial. Each branch has its own separate, unique authority, known as the separation of powers. And each branch is limited by the powers of the other two. This system of checks and balances ensures that no single branch of government has all the control. The executive branch, which is led by the president, also includes the vice president and the cabinet. The cabinet includes the attorney general and such departments as defense, treasury, labor, and agriculture. The legislative branch, called Congress, is responsible for making laws. This branch consists of the Senate and the House of Representatives. The elected officials in these houses can introduce and debate legislation. But as an example of checks and balances, the bills passed in the Senate and House of Representatives can't become laws until they are signed by the President. The President can veto, or reject, a bill, but if enough people in Congress, at least 2/3, vote to override that veto, the bill can become a law without the President's signature. The judicial branch, headed by the Supreme Court and also including the U.S. courts of Appeals and U.S. District Courts, explains the laws passed by the legislative branch and interprets whether these laws follow the principles laid out in the Constitution. The court system performs extremely important functions: resolving arguments between citizens and determining the guilt and possible punishment of people accused of crimes.
What is my tongue for?
Without your tongue it would be nearly impossible to do three important functions: eat, taste, and talk. The tongue is a complex group of muscles that moves food around your mouth as you chew and finally molds it into a ball for swallowing. Just try eating anything without using your tongue. In addition, taste buds, clusters of special cells located on the surface of your tongue, are mostly responsible for your ability to taste food and drink. Although other parts of your mouth have some taste buds, too. Your 9,000 or so taste buds can recognize 4 types of flavors: sweet, salty, sour, and bitter. Besides helping you enjoy food, tasting is very important because it keeps you from eating food that has spoiled and is unsafe. Finally, your tongue along with your mouth and lips helps you to make the special sounds you use to speak.
Why can't I taste anything when I have a cold?
Even though your mouth has thousands of taste buds, most of them located on your tongue. The way food smells greatly affects your sense of taste. Your tongue can only sense 4 flavors: sweet, salty, sour, and bitter. It is the different smells of foods that allow you to experience a wide variety of tastes. When you have a head cold, the lining of your nose is swollen and produces extra, thick mucus. This mucus keeps the scent particles of food from getting to your olfactory center, located on top of your nasal cavity. These scent particles cannot reach the thick batch of hairs there that send smell impulses to your brain.
How many different kinds of insects are there?
More than 980,000 species of arthropods exist, and most of those are insects. Estimates vary, but some scientists believe there are around 900,000 known species of insects. And many more species are yet to be discovered. Some experts believe there may be as many as 10 million different kinds of insects.
Why weren't you born with better teeth?
One reason could be that you inherit different traits from each of your parents. And sometimes they don't work well together. If you inherited your mother's small jaw, for example, but your father's large teeth, you are going to have crowding problems in your mouth. Your teeth will slope backwards or forwards, or turn, or overlap one another in order to try to fit into their small space. On the other hand, if your teeth are too small for your jaws, you will have big gaps between your teeth. These are just a few of the problems that an orthodontist tries to correct. Try to remember that wearing braces for a few years when you are young will give you a lifetime of healthier, good-looking teeth. Also remember to brush and floss more often when you have braces, because they trap food particles against your teeth.
How does the internet work?
Just as telephones are connected by a worldwide phone system, home and work computers can connect with a global computer communications network known as the Internet. Each computer that is linked to the system has its own Internet address, as individual as a phone number. Home computer users buy the services of an Internet provider, which is an organization with powerful computers that link all its subscribers to the Internet. Many large organizations and companies have computers that link them directly to the network. Internet users can visit the World Wide Web, which is a global network of websites providing information, entertainment, products, and other services. People can use the Internet to send electronic mail, known as email, to one another in just a few seconds. Once you type a message into your computer to send to your cousin, Let's say who lives miles from you across the country. It travels through the wires of your phone line as a series of electrical signals. Or, for some people, the signals travel through the same cables that bring them cable television. These signals travel to a station run by your service provider, where a big computer sends them to an internet routing center. Located all over the world, routing centers link to organizations and internet providers send the countless computer communications that come to them each second along the quickest possible routes to their destinations. A giant computer there reads the address on your email and sends it farther. Depending on the distance it must travel, it may continue along phone lines, be changed into light signals that can travel with great speed along thin glass strands called fiber optic cables, or be converted into equally speedy invisible bands of energy known as radio waves and transmitted to a communications satellite that will bounce it back to Earth to a ground station located close to where your cousin lives. Once your message reaches the routing center nearest your cousin, it will be sent to the station of his or her service provider. From there it will be sent along regular phone lines to his or her computer. And all of this happens in a matter of moments.
How can fish breathe underwater?
Just like people and, indeed, all animals. Fish need to take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide to survive. And while oxygen isn't as plentiful in water as it is in the air, there is enough dissolved oxygen in water to allow fish, and all other water creatures, to live. Fish conduct the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide with the help of gills. Breathing organs consisting of flaps of tissue located on the outside of the fish's body. Gills are loaded with tiny blood vessels called capillaries. It is these vessels that take in oxygen from the water and transport it to other blood vessels that distribute it where it's needed in the fish's body. The gill capillaries also bring carbon dioxide from other vessels to the gills, where it is then returned to the water.
Why are penguins black and white?
The trademark tuxedo-like coloring of penguins, with their black backs and white fronts, is called countershading. This kind of coloration is found in many fish and other aquatic animals that swim close to the surface because it helps hide them from sight in the water. When viewed from below, the white-bellied penguin blends in with the lighter appearance of water near the surface. When seen from above, the penguin's black back can't be distinguished from the dark depths of the sea.
Who decides how a country is run?
A country is run by its government. Countries around the world are run by many different kinds of governments. In some countries, a written law called a constitution states what kind of government will be used. It outlines the government's powers and duties, along with rights of the people governed by it. A constitution is agreed upon at the time a country is founded or is adopted at a later date by a country's leaders. Sometimes rules about how a country is governed are not written down, but are commonly known and followed, becoming long-standing traditions. Many monarchies, for instance, in which a king or queen rules and another member of the royal family takes the throne after he or she dies, are examples of this. In such countries, the rules about who will inherit the throne are not written down as law but are decided amongst the royals. In many nations, government leaders get their authority to rule from the citizens of their countries. This authority is granted when people vote leaders into office during elections. Rulers chosen in this way are usually called presidents or prime ministers. And their governments are considered democracies because the power to govern is granted to the leader by the majority of their citizenry. If the citizens of a democracy feel that their leader is doing a poor job running the country, they can remove him or her from office in another election. Many people think that a democracy is the best form of government because citizens have some control over their lives and their country through their government representatives. There are other forms of government in which the authority to lead is given to an individual by just a few powerful citizens or is inherited for life. A government that is led by one person who has complete or absolute power over the citizens is called a dictatorship. Some dictators known as tyrants take charge of the country by force rather than by being appointed. Such rulers generally run governments that disregard the needs of their people because they aren't required by law to answer to their people's needs. They can only be removed from their positions of power by others like them who possess greater force. When such rulers and their governments are overthrown, the process is often violent and bloody.
Why do I dream?
When you sleep, your brain does different things. Most of the time it is quiet, resting with the rest of your body and producing little of the electrical activity seen during waking hours. But every 1.5 to 2 hours, you dream. During dreams, your brain shows the same electrical activity as if you were awake, and your eyes move about very rapidly. That is why this is known as REM sleep, referring to the rapid eye movements. Oddly, during all this brain and eye activity, your body is very still, its muscles limp. Scientists think that this inability to move the body is protective, keeping people from hurting themselves as they respond to what happens in their dreams. In scientific experiments, cats were operated on so that their muscles were able to move when they dreamed. Some began to run and even attack imaginary mice while they slept. If you sleep for about 8 hours, you have 4 or 5 dreams during that time. Dreams usually last anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes. So in one night you can spend between half an hour and more than 2 hours dreaming.
Which spiders are poisonous to people?
Most spiders are capable of injecting venom into the animals they bite. But only a few can cause harm to humans. Two spiders most often associated with harmful bites are the black widow and the brown recluse. The black widow can be found all over the world, including throughout the United States, except Alaska. Females are far more common than males. The male usually gets eaten by the female after mating. Their shiny black bodies have red markings on the underside that are frequently in the shape of an hourglass. Black widows feed on insects, but they will occasionally, if they feel threatened, bite a human. A bite from a black widow, while it can cause a person severe pain and nausea, is not generally life-threatening. The brown recluse spider can most commonly be found in the southern and western United States. But it can also be seen in the northern states. A bite from this small spider may not be immediately detected, but after a few hours a painful blister may form. The wound can take several weeks to heal. In very rare cases, the bites of brown recluse spiders have been known to cause death in humans. These shy spiders are not aggressive and generally only bite when they are disturbed or handled. The funnel weaver spider, found in southeastern Australia, and certain kinds of tarantulas that live in Africa and South America have also been known to cause harm to humans. The Brazilian huntsman is believed to be the spider with the most toxic poison. It would take only 0.000000021 ounces, 0.006 milligrams, of this spider's venom to kill a mouse. If a spider bite occurs, the best thing to do is to try to collect the spider so it can be identified and to see a doctor as soon as possible. Most spider bites are harmless, though mildly annoying.
Why are polar bears white?
The polar bear lives in the Arctic, the region of the North Pole. Most of its environment is barren, covered year-round with ice and snow and not much else. A polar bear might eat what few plants it can find, but it feeds mostly on water animals like seals and small walruses, which share its frozen home. The polar bear's yellowish-white coat helps it blend into its snowy surroundings as it hunts its prey. After all, there is not much in the Arctic to hide behind. The fur of a polar bear is also extremely thick, allowing it to withstand polar temperatures and swim in Arctic waters, where its prey is often found. Polar bears are excellent swimmers, and their unique paws with hairy soles allow them to run very quickly over ice and snow without slipping.
How many suckers does an octopus have on its arms?
The common octopus has 240 suckers lined up in 2 rows on each arm. Multiply 240 by 8 arms, and you can calculate that this octopus has 1,920 suckers. Its suckers are extremely powerful, and the octopus uses them to move along the sea bottom and to capture and hold its prey. The suckers don't just stick like suction cups to whatever they touch, however the octopus can control what it wants to hold in its grip. And if it needs to swim away quickly, it can instantly release the suction. Octopuses eat mainly crustaceans like crabs and lobsters. The octopus's mouth is located in the center of the skirt, which is the tissue at the base of the arms. It uses sharp beak-like structures and a built-in file, called a radula, in its mouth to tear away the shells of its prey. Octopuses are, in turn, eaten by a number of large fish as well as by humans.
Why do some snakes rattle?
Scientists believe that rattlesnakes shake the rattles at the end of their tails as a warning of their presence. Snakes would rather warn potential enemies away than get involved in a fight. And most creatures familiar with rattlesnakes would probably rather flee than tangle with the rattler. Rattlesnakes might also shake their rattles to attract small birds that could mistake the rattling for a buzzing insect and swoop down for a bug snack, only to be caught themselves by the snake. The rattle is a series of small, hard segments made of dried skin. Each time the rattlesnake sheds its skin, or molts, another segment is added. In its first few years of life, a rattlesnake may molt 3 or 4 times a year. In adulthood, rattlesnakes molt less often. Counting the rattles is not an accurate measure of a snake's age, because it's common for some of the rattle segments to break off. Most adult rattlesnakes have between 6 and 10 rattle segments.
How did the months of the year get their names?
The months of the year in the Gregorian calendar, used by most of the world, originated with the ancient Romans, who named the months after gods and goddesses, important emperors, and in some cases the month's position on the calendar. For example, January is named for Janus, a Roman god. Janus had 2 faces, one looking into the past and the other into the future. August commemorates the Roman Emperor Octavian, who was known as Augustus Caesar. The names for September through December were all taken from the words for numbers. September, for example, was at one time the 7th month in the calendar, and its name came from the word septem, meaning 7.
If you want people to be nice to you, and who doesn't?
Then it is wise to be nice to them. Courteous, kind behavior not only makes the people you're dealing with feel good, it can make you feel good too. You've probably noticed that being nice is contagious, spreading good feelings to lots of people. Not only that, but you'll find you get what you want a lot more often when you're behaving pleasantly than if you're whining or ordering people around. Imagine if each person made the effort to be more respectful and thoughtful, the whole world would run a lot more smoothly.
What causes the seasons?
Earth's complete orbit around the Sun takes about 365 days, or 1 year. During the course of the orbit, Earth tilts on its axis. When the northern end of Earth tilts toward the Sun, it receives more of the Sun's direct rays. These rays warm the northern hemisphere and its summer season arrives. At the same time, winter comes to the southern hemisphere, which then receives less direct solar rays. As Earth continues its orbit through the year, it tilts on its axis in the other direction. Then the winter season comes to the northern hemisphere, and the southern hemisphere enjoys summer. This tilt of Earth also explains why the length of days varies throughout the year. In the summer, more direct solar rays give us longer days.
Why are dams built?
Dams, which are structures that hold back water, have been built since ancient times. They are usually made of earth, rock, brick, or concrete, or a combination of these things. They are constructed to control the flow of water in a river, and they are built for a number of reasons. One reason is to prevent flooding. Heavy rains in high country may cause water levels in a river to rise. As the river flows downhill, it may overflow its banks, flooding communities located downstream. A dam can prevent this by stopping or slowing rushing water, allowing it to be released at a normal rate. Dams are also frequently used to store water for general use and farming. When a river's flow is restricted by a dam, water often spreads out behind the dam to form a lake or reservoir in the river valley. That water can then be used as needed, preventing water shortages and crop damage during long periods of dry weather. A great number of dams today are used to make electricity. Such hydroelectric dams are built very tall, to create a great difference in the height of the water level behind and in front of it. High water behind a dam passes through gates in the dam wall that allow it to fall to the river far below. As the water falls, it flows past huge blades called turbines. The turbines run generators that make electricity. One of the world's largest and most productive hydroelectric dams is the Hoover Dam. Located on the Colorado River between Nevada and Arizona. Built in the 1930s, it is 726 feet, 221 meters, high and 1,244 feet, 379 meters, long. Its reservoir, Lake Mead, the world's largest, supplies water to several states, allowing huge regions of naturally dry terrain in Southern California, Arizona, and Mexico to flourish. Many modern dams are used for all three purposes: flood control, water storage, and hydroelectric power.
How does music come from a compact disc?
Not too long ago, music was recorded on a phonograph record, which was the first invention that made a permanent record of sounds that could be played back. Sound vibrations like a voice singing or an instrument playing were changed by a microphone into electrical signals that directed a sharp needle to cut a wiggly groove into a spinning plastic or vinyl record. A record player, with its needle riding lightly in the groove of a revolving record, could reproduce the electrical signals and change them back into sound through its speakers. Today, compact discs, CDs, are used instead of phonograph records to record music. Less than 5 inches across, CDs can hold more music than long-playing, LP, 12-inch records. This capacity is possible because a CD spins very fast as its signals are read. Up to 500 revolutions per minute, LPs make about 33 complete turns per minute. The spiral track of a CD is also very fine, thinner than a human hair, which allows more music to be fit onto its smaller surface. On the bottom side of a CD is a thin metal sheet. Tiny round depressions called pits, which represent sound, fill its spiral track. Just as needles were used to cut grooves into phonograph records, chemicals eat away the metal on CDs to create these pits. A beam of laser light is used instead of a record player needle to change a CD's pitted track back into sound. Unlike ordinary light, which spreads out in all directions once it leaves its source, laser light can be focused with great accuracy. It moves along the track of a CD, and sensors detect the pattern of shiny flat parts, which reflect light back, and pits, which don't. These on and off flashes of reflected light turn into electrical signals. A computer in a compact disc player, which has an enormous memory that stores every possible combination of on and off patterns, converts the signals to musical notes with different pitches and volumes in the player's speakers. And then the music plays. Unlike phonographic sound, which could be impaired by scratched records, dull playing needles, or wobbly turntables, the sound from compact discs is remarkably true to life because such problems don't affect the efficiency of laser beams. A DVD, which stands for Digital Versatile Disc, uses very similar technology to a CD, only DVDs can hold much more data, about 7 times more than a CD. In recent years their outstanding quality have made DVDs increasingly popular. They can hold a full-length movie as well as many added features, like subtitles in multiple languages, commentaries from directors, extra scenes that were deleted from the final version of the movie, and more.
So why does a light bulb eventually burn out, then?
A light bulb doesn't really burn out. But during each intense heating, some of the tungsten in the filament vaporizes, breaking off into tiny particles that float in the argon. This process causes the filament to weaken in spots and eventually to break. The discoloration that you see on the inside surface of a worn-out light bulb is not caused by burn marks, but by a thin coating of evaporated tungsten.
What are freckles?
Freckles are little spots of color that have more melanin, the pigment responsible for skin, hair, and eye color than surrounding skin. They are usually seen in people who are fair. Because the color contrast between freckles and the rest of the skin is strong.
What is spit?
Your mouth is kept moist and clean by a watery liquid called saliva, or spit, which is made by pairs of salivary glands located under your jaw, in front of your ears, and under your tongue. Saliva mixes with food as you chew, softening it so that it can be more easily swallowed. In addition, saliva starts the digestive process because it contains an enzyme or chemical that changes the starch in food into sugar. The production of saliva increases when food is in the mouth or even with the sight and smell of good food, hence the use of the word mouth-watering to describe delicious or fragrant meals.
Do snakes have bones in their bodies?
Snakes have such flexible and winding bodies. It seems strange to think that they have bones under those scales. Snakes do not have any arms or legs, but they do have bones in their skull, and they have a long backbone. The backbone is made up of vertebrae, plural of vertebra, the segments that make up the spinal column in all vertebrates. And a pair of ribs is attached to each vertebra above the tail section. Therefore, very long snakes have more vertebrae, and more ribs than any other kind of animal. Some snakes have more than 400 vertebrae, people have 12. The way the vertebrae fit together allows for swiveling flexibility in both side-to-side and up and down motions, allowing the snake to move the way it does without straining its skeleton.
How could the world run smoothly if no one kept his or her word?
Once in a while, though, you have to tell a secret in order to protect someone, including yourself. If a friend tells you confidentially that he or she is doing something harmful, for example, then you have to break your promise of secrecy and tell a grown-up, who will know what should be done about the situation. In such a case, the safety of other people is more important than your promise of trust.
How does a tape recorder work?
A tape recorder uses a magnetic language to record and play back music, words, and sounds. It does this by way of a plastic tape coated with tiny iron particles that are arranged in a haphazard way. Sound that enters a tape recorder's microphone is turned into electrical signals. These electrical signals, in turn, are changed into magnetic signals by an electromagnet, located in the recording head. When a recording tape rubs against the head as it winds from one spool to another, its metal particles are magnetized and rearranged in patterns that correspond with the different sounds being recorded. When a tape is played back, the reverse process takes place. When rubbed across a playing head, the iron particles of a tape send magnetic signals that are converted into electrical signals. These signals are then changed by the tape recorder's speaker into sound. The videocassette player, VCR, that you use to record television shows and play movies has a similar magnetic language. All the information that makes up sound and pictures can be stored on a videotape in magnetized metal particles, arranged in complicated patterns. Videotapes are much wider than cassette tapes because they carry so much more information.
Why do dogs bark?
Dogs bark to communicate with other dogs and with humans. Dogs are descendants of wolves, which are social animals that live in packs. And they share many of the behaviors that define the complex relationships that exist within such animal groups. Few domestic dogs live together in packs, though they often consider their human family their group. But they still use complicated behaviors that involve smell, sight, and hearing to communicate. A dog has many scent-producing glands that it uses to communicate. The scent that a dog leaves behind, in its urine, feces, and paw prints, can reveal its sex, age, and even its mood to other dogs that come sniffing by. A dog uses its posture, facial expression, and ear and tail position to communicate with other dogs, too. And it uses its voice to communicate by whining, growling, howling, or barking. A dog usually whines or whimpers when it is in distress, when it is hungry, cold, or in pain. Growls indicate that a dog is angry and ready to fight. Howls and barks usually show excitement. In the wild, wolves and other canines use howling and barking to call together the pack for a hunt, for feeding, or to warn against danger. When wolves were tamed, or domesticated, between 12,000 and 14,000 years ago. The less dangerous ones were kept to act as guard dogs, to help in hunting, or to herd other domesticated animals. Barking was a useful trait, a handy alarm system that let their human masters know of approaching intruders, prey, or predators. This desirable trait was bred into new dogs. This means that the owners would arrange for two dogs who barked a lot to mate, producing a litter of pups with a tendency to bark often. Then those pups would be bred with other pups who liked to bark, and so on. Over time, domesticated dogs came to use their barks to communicate with their owners. Today, your pet dog barks when it's excited, needs attention, or wants something. It uses its bark to communicate much more than it would if it were living in the wild.
Why isn't there school during the summer?
Our 10-month school year from September through June developed when most people still lived and worked on farms. Parents needed their children to help out at home during the growing season, so there was no school in the summer. The 10-month school year became a tradition. Even now, when most people no longer live and work on farms, the traditional school year has remained, and other traditions were built around it. A summer vacation from school became a tradition, too, allowing children to go on special trips with their families. The summer tourist industry depended on family vacationers in order to make money, and on students to do the work with summer jobs. But studies have shown that the 2 to 3 months that children have off in the summer can cause problems. A lot of learning is forgotten over the long summer, and a lot of time is wasted relearning it during review time when school begins in the fall. Because our society is no longer an agricultural one, and because almost all institutions operate throughout the year, many educators have been looking into the idea of year-round schools. There are about 2,700 year-round schools in the United States today, and studies show that most of their students learn more than those who attend traditional schools. Continuous education appears to be better than interrupted education. Children at most year-round schools attend the same number of days 180 as children at regular schools. But instead of a long summer break, they have shorter, more frequent breaks throughout the year. These breaks, called intersessions, are often used by students who need extra help or who want to learn more about things that especially interest them. The number of year-round schools is growing, which may indicate the start of a new tradition.
What is a best friend?
A best friend is a special pal who generally likes to do a lot of the same things you like. You tend to have more fun with your best friend than with other friends, and you can tell him or her more of your feelings, even secrets, because you trust that person more than anyone else. And your best friend feels the same way about you, sharing important ideas and feelings. It seems like your best friend understands you better than any other person you know. You care about each other a great deal. You share your good times and bad times with a best friend, and that person does the same with you.
Why does a compass needle always point north?
A magnet made of iron or other special metals that are electrically charged has two poles, or ends, where its magnetic strength is greatest. Each end has an opposite electrical charge. When two magnets are held near each other, the poles that have the same charges repel each other, while the ends with opposite charges attract. The needle of a compass is a magnet and, believe it or not, so is Earth. Earth's greatest magnetic strength is concentrated at the magnetic north and south poles, which are different from the geographical north and south poles. So a compass needle is attracted to the opposite electrical charges of Earth's poles, with the tip of its needle always pointing north and the bottom of its needle always pointing south.
Where do seashells come from?
Seashells are more than just pretty souvenirs to take home from a trip to the beach. Shells are the hard outer coverings, or exoskeletons, of small, soft-bodied, invertebrate animals. Most animals that live in seashells are called mollusks. Some live in the water and others live on the shore. Some mollusks, usually the ones called bivalves, named because their shells are divided into a left and right valve, are delicacies for humans, like mussels, clams, oysters, and scallops. Snails are also mollusks. Seashells are made mostly of calcium carbonate and other minerals found in the sea. The shell is formed in layers when the mantle, a tissue that is part of the mollusk's body, secretes a substance that hardens. Some shells have a glistening, pinkish-orange interior that is called nacre, or mother of pearl. Seashells come in a wide variety of shapes and sizes. Some are curvy spirals, others are spiny. Others are fan-shaped with grooves spreading across the surface and a glorious range of colors. Scientists aren't exactly sure why some shells are shaped or colored the way they are, though they believe certain shapes help the mollusk burrow into the sand or intimidate its enemies, and certain colors help to camouflage the shell from predators.
Why do I have to go to school?
So much of what you need to know to live successfully as an adult does not come naturally. It has to be learned and studied and memorized. Children learn to speak naturally, for example, by listening to those around them, but reading and writing must be specifically taught. The complicated process of learning the alphabet and the sounds it represents. Putting letter sounds together to make words. And learning the meaning of words in order to read and write are skills that only come with special effort. Knowing how to figure out problems that involve numbers. And learning how the world is run or how nature works are important things to learn, too. Your parents might be able to teach you these things, but they would need many hours each day to do it. Most parents need to work outside the home and wouldn't have the time to give proper instruction. Though some kids are homeschooled by their parents instead of going to school. In the United States, a public school system provides years of free education for all children. Teachers who are specially trained to know what children should learn. And how, and when are the people who do the job. In past centuries, when most people worked on farms or in simple factory jobs, formal schooling, that done in a classroom, was not as important. But today, jobs frequently require complicated skills and complex knowledge. To ensure that all children learn the kinds of things that will help them do well as adults, state governments now require that all children to go to school for a certain number of years, usually to the age of 16. So that's another reason you have to go to school. It's the law. Kids who skip school a lot find themselves in court. Children who go to private schools or whose parents have received special permission to teach them at home are exceptions.
What are feathers made of?
Birds have many different kinds of feathers, each of which performs a different function. Some feathers, the small, soft down used in pillows and winter jackets, are designed to keep the bird warm, others are specifically used for flight. While some feathers are pure decoration, intended to help the bird find a mate. Feathers consist of a shaft in the middle with pairs of branches, called barbs, attached. The surface formed by the barbs is called the vane. On the feathers of some birds, the barbs in turn have smaller branches called barbules. The barbules from one barb connect to those of the barb next to it by little hooks, making the feather stiffer and stronger. Before the invention of the modern ink pen, people filled the hollow shafts of feathers, called quills, with ink and used them as writing instruments. In societies all over the world, people have also used feathers to decorate clothing or hats, or to make garments worn during important ceremonies.
What is a booger?
The mucous membrane that lines your nose is moist and sticky. That environment helps trap dust and other things in the air before they can pass into your lungs. When moisture evaporates from the thick film of mucus that covers the lining of your nose, which happens all the time as air passes over it, the mucus combining with the particles you've breathed in, becomes dried and crusty, forming boogers.
Why did dinosaurs become extinct?
Scientists do not know for sure why dinosaurs became extinct. They have many different theories, some of which explain the extinction as something that happened gradually over a long period of time. Other theories suggest that a single catastrophe caused the dinosaur population to die off rather suddenly. And some scientists believe the dinosaur population had been gradually getting smaller and then was finished off by some dramatic event. Some who believe gradual changes brought about the dinosaurs' end suggest that as more and more mammals appeared, the dinosaurs had trouble competing with them for food sources. And these mammals may have eaten dinosaur eggs in such large numbers that fewer and fewer baby dinosaurs were born. Some experts believe that widespread disease killed off dinosaurs. Many suggest that gradual climate changes from continuously warm, mild weather to seasonal variations with hot summers and cold winters affected the dinosaurs. Scientists are not sure whether dinosaurs were warm-blooded or cold-blooded, and there may have been some of each. If they were cold-blooded, meaning that their body temperature changed depending on the temperature of their surroundings, it would have been difficult for such large animals to survive extreme temperatures. Smaller cold-blooded creatures can burrow under the ground, for example, to escape both heat and cold. But most dinosaurs were simply too large to do that. The scientists who believe that dinosaurs became extinct after a major catastrophe point to evidence that suggests a huge asteroid, perhaps several miles wide, hit Earth. The impact of such an object would have created enormous clouds of dust and other debris. The heat of impact would have started fires over a great area. Between the dust clouds and the smoke from the fires, sunlight would have been blocked, maybe for several months. A lack of sunlight would have caused a dramatic drop in temperature, and much plant life would have died. Without plants, the plant-eating dinosaurs and many other animals would have died. Without the plant-eating dinosaurs and those other animals, the meat-eating dinosaurs would eventually die as well. Some scientists argue that not all dinosaurs became extinct. The striking similarities between modern birds and some kinds of dinosaurs have led some people to believe that birds are living descendants of dinosaurs.
How far can birds fly?
Some birds go very short distances in their migrations. The blue grouse, for example, lives in the mountains in North America and flies less than a mile down to lower, warmer altitudes for the winter months. That's one extreme. Another extreme are the long-distance flyers like the Arctic terns. These birds hold the distance record for flight. They've been known to fly from their summer home in the Arctic to a winter spot in the Antarctic, covering distances of around 10,000 miles, 16,100 kilometers. And in the spring they go back the other way. The long-tailed jaeger flies more than 5,000 miles. 8,050 kilometers, in each direction of its migratory flight. And even the tiny barn swallow has been known to cover 6,000 miles, 9,660 kilometers, round trip.
Do killer whales attack humans?
The killer whale, also known as orca, is a type of dolphin that can grow to be 31 feet. 9.5 meters, long and weigh 11,000 pounds, 5,000 kilograms. It eats fish, squid, and occasionally such sea mammals as seals and other dolphins. Despite its frightening name, the killer whale has never been known to attack a person. Killer whales are intelligent and, with their stark black and white coloring, dramatic-looking animals. They learn quickly and can perform complex tasks. Abilities that have made them a favorite at aquariums and marine parks.
Which animal has the shortest life?
Many insects have very short lives, existing for only a few days. The mayfly has the shortest lifespan. In the adult stage, the mayfly often lives just a few hours, long enough to mate and, for the females, to deposit their fertilized eggs. Male mayflies perform an acrobatic mating dance over water as the sun goes down. They are then joined in the dance by the females. Mayflies, also called fish flies, arrive in swarms in areas near bodies of fresh water. The pre-adult stages are aquatic, meaning they live in water. They coat streets and driveways and cling to screen doors and cars. While their fishy odor is unpleasant, the presence of mayflies indicates that the body of water is healthy.
Why do yellowjacket wasps bother picnickers?
Yellowjacket wasps only appear at picnics in the late summer and fall, when there is less work for them to do in their colonies. The nectar-producing flowers that they usually feed on are almost gone at that time of year, so they settle for sweet things like soda and other picnic food.
How do snakes make venom?
Snakes make venom in glands like those used for making saliva. These glands are located at the back of the snake's head. And the venom travels through ducts, or tubes, to the fangs. Different kinds of venom damage different parts of the snake's prey. Some venoms affect the heart. Some attack the nervous system, and some work to digest the prey, making it easier for the snake to swallow it.
How do air traffic controllers know where planes are in the sky?
Air traffic controllers use radar invisible bands of energy called radio waves, which are similar to visible light waves, to detect where airplanes are located in the air. They are the same type of waves as those used in broadcasting but with higher frequencies. Radar waves, which travel in a straight line and at a constant speed, are sent out in all directions through antennae. When radar waves meet distant objects like planes, they are reflected back to receivers. Controllers can tell how far away the objects are located by the speed at which the reflected waves return. Radar receivers process the return signals electronically, using them to visually plot planes on a screen that represents the sky. With radar, controllers can tell how high and fast a plane is flying and in what direction it is heading. While large commercial airplanes have their own radar devices on board to report their altitudes, distance from the ground, and to warn them of obstacles in their paths, smaller aircraft do not. Air traffic controllers keep all planes around an airport at a safe distance from one another, and they direct takeoffs and landings. Controllers can even help a plane land in heavy fog by watching its flight on their radar screen and radioing directions to the pilot. Because radar can detect the position, motion, and even the size and shape of very distant objects, it is used for many other purposes. These purposes include ship navigation, storm detection and weather forecasting, map making, and space exploration.
Why are rainforests so important to the health of our planet?
In 1800 there were 7.1 billion acres of rainforest in the world. Now, just 200 years later, less than half 3.5 billion acres remain. Over 100,000 acres of the world's rainforests are destroyed each day, with trees cut down for their valuable wood and land cleared for farming. While covering just 2% of Earth's surface, the dense vegetation of these forests plays an important role in the health of our planet. The destruction of rainforests threatens the health of our planet by reducing the amount of oxygen in our air and increasing carbon dioxide. Too much carbon dioxide in our atmosphere keeps the sun's heat from radiating back into space, increasing global temperatures, called the greenhouse effect. Global warming, in turn, could bring about major climate changes. Melting glaciers and rising sea levels, for example, could cause flooding of coastal regions. The plants in rainforests produce natural chemicals that fight off destruction by insects. And scientists have learned how to make plant-based insecticides from rainforest plants, without destroying the rainforests, to spray on crops. These natural insecticides are far less toxic than synthetic, or human-made, chemicals. Numerous medicines, as much as 1/4 of all prescription drugs, have been made from materials gathered in rainforests. and many more life-saving medicines may await discovery there. Many products like natural rubber, essential oils used in cosmetics and perfumes, and rattan, a material weaved together to make furniture, can be taken from rainforests without causing widespread destruction. In addition, rainforests can absorb huge amounts of water. When rainforests are destroyed, the vast amounts of rainfall in those regions cannot be absorbed, resulting in widespread flooding. Fortunately, international efforts have begun trying to save what remains of the rainforests by helping the people who destroy them find other ways to earn a living. Still, the destruction of these important forests continues at a rapid pace.
How does a toaster work?
Inside a toaster are thick wires arranged in panels that heat up and toast your food. When you push down the lever that lowers your bread, it catches on a hook inside, turning on the heater, while your bread turns brown and crispy. A special metal switch inside the toaster gets hot, too, and bends. After a certain amount of time it bends so much that it pushes on a bar that releases the lever from the hook, and the toasting stops. This action also releases a spring, which pushes the lever up again and your toast pops up. All metals expand when they are heated.
Why do I have to eat?
Food and drink provide the energy that your body needs to function and the materials required for growth and repair. People can't live without food and drink for very long. A healthy diet requires a certain amount of 6 different substances: proteins, carbohydrates, fats, fiber, vitamins, and minerals. In addition, water is required to keep body processes running smoothly. Proteins, found in meat, fish, eggs, dairy products, peas, beans, and grains, are required for the repair, replacement, and growth of body tissue. Carbohydrates, found in bread, pasta, potatoes, and cereals, are good sources of quick energy for the body. Fats, found in many animal and plant foods, like meat, eggs, and nuts, also provide the body with energy and are sometimes used for growth and repair. Vitamins are chemicals that the body needs to function well. Minerals are metals and salts that the body also needs in tiny amounts to run. Different foods, like vegetables, contain different amounts of vitamins and minerals. So it is important to have variety in your diet so you can get a good balance. Fiber or roughage, parts of plant foods that the body can't digest, is important for the proper working of the digestive system. It provides the bulk that digestive muscles need to grip onto as they push food along and carry away body waste. Water is also a very important part of a healthy diet. An adult's body loses about 4 pints, 2 liters, of water every day through urine. Bowel movements, sweat, and the moisture in exhaled breath. Those fluids need to be replaced by drinking water, or other healthy beverages. And eating food, water makes up about 70% of the food we eat. An individual can survive weeks without food but only 4 or 5 days without vital water.
What are tears for?
Tears keep the delicate surface of the eyeball clean and wet. Tears are produced in glands, called lacrimal, above the outer corner of the eye. They spread across the eye surface with each blink. A blink takes about a third of a second, and most people blink about every 6 seconds. When you add it up, you spend more than half an hour each day blinking. Tears that wash across the eye usually evaporate into the air or drain into tear ducts. 2 tiny canals located at the inner corner of each eyelid. From there they pass down into the nose, where they keep nasal tissues moist. That's why you have to blow your nose when you've been crying. When you cry or get something in your eyes, you may produce more tears than the system ordinarily handles, and they may spill out onto your face.